Hey, everybody. We are back from a 3 months hiatus, and we're back at one of the greatest times because we just had the new Superman movie come out not too long ago. I'm happy to be back. I'm being joined by Rush and we are going to be talking about James Gunn Superman, and we're pretty excited to be back. Um, so, how you guys doing today?
Excellent.
Doing great. Sorry I cut you off there with the editing.
No, that's good. So we'll jump right in. And first up, I'm just going to get this out of the way. This movie in no way is political. It was made a year or more in advance from any kind of current event. So we'll just get that out of the way. But we're going to start off how each liked it and kind of go from there. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I mean, it checked all the boxes off for me, and the way it was made and just the amount of characters in there was just right. I gave this a big A plus in my opinion. And I'm not the biggest Superman fan. I'm a Batman fan, but this was great. So let me hear what you guys have to think, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'll go first here. Over the course of the pantheon of superhero movies that we've had over the years, and Superman movies in particular, I think for me this was an A, like a easy A, not A plus, because there were certain flaws that I caught that I didn't love everything about it, but we'll get into that. Overall, though, I think it's the start of a new wave of like a type of superhero movie. A more hopeful, positive one. Like I loved the Man of Steel Superman, but it lacked. It was a little too dark and gritty and brooding, and I hated the tornado scene, and we'll get into stuff like that. But like this had a lot of what I was missing from that franchise. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed it, and look forward to talking through it again with you guys. Rush, what do you think?
Yeah, I've had an interesting last week since it came out because, listen, I'll dig into it. But my initial reaction was that I didn't love it, and I'm a huge Superman fan. I've seen everything Superman related. It's always been my favorite superhero. Smallville's my favorite show, and I think I was probably expecting more like the Man of Steel, he's invincible, all that stuff, and to be a little more serious. And so that's why initially I think I was a bit surprised, although I shouldn't be, having loved and watched many James Gunn movies. But then hearing a lot of people talk about it, about a few different things that I think make a lot of sense that I just wasn't thinking going into it. Like, we don't need to see the origin story again, right? We don't need to see him coming to Earth again. We don't need to see a lot of the different typical things that we see. We kind of, one thing I really did like is that it opens up into a whole universe, whereas most of the time Superman's been very standalone. You're so many oftentimes with both the Superman and Batman films, which are top heavy, in my opinion. I've always liked Superman and Batman. They've been like kind of my favorites, but I liked Marvel more because there's more of a universe, I feel, in a lot of things they do. But this was the first time, and I guess I was a bit surprised by it, that the universe was already there. And I was a bit taken aback by how human and how weak at times Superman was. But there was so much to like as far as a comic book fan about it. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I gotta see it probably 2 or 3 more times, right? Because there's
it's rewatchable. That's what I like about it.
There's a lot happening. Like when you also think about your typical Batman and Superman films where they're more serious, there's a lot of pause, like there's a lot of break time between big scenes and everything like that. Whereas like what's typical with James Gunn, which is great and more comic book, is there's so many things in between, like Easter eggs for fans and stuff like that. I recognize a lot of the characters and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested to dig more into it because the more and more I've listened to people talk about it that I know are fans like I am, they pointed out things that I didn't think about. Now, there's still issues I have with it, but, I think I was expecting one thing, got another. But as a Superman fan, I've been waiting for this movie for a very long time.
And I'm glad you brought up that, or at least you had a change of heart from our last kind of conversations after you initially saw the movie.
Fair reaction, though. I mean, like
the human aspect of him was very apparent throughout the movie, and that's one of the things I absolutely loved. I mean, it starts off with him, losing a battle, bloodied, and it's, you hear all these like comments, and I've seen them online where it's like, he's not supposed to get his ass kicked. Like, dude, that makes for a weak character and a weak movie where he's just so invulnerable. Like, where's the story arc? Where's the character development? But the main part in which I love, and this is the reason why I did really like this, is the human relatability. That conversation he was having with Lois when she was interviewing him, and she starts asking him questions, and he starts getting irritated, and it was a very human thing to do, because he's like, dude, I was just being me, and you're like coming at me with all this stuff. It was, to me, that was very, very relatable. And then the whole aspect of him having friends, the Justice Gang, and then also kind of showing throughout the movie, especially when he was winning over Metamorpho, of how much he cares. And Metamorpho's like, whoa, like,
yeah,
all right, man, let me give you this chance. Save my son. Let's get out. I mean, like, because he saw the pain in his face when his friend, just person he associated and had a conversation with, was executed by Lex Luthor.
That's real quick. That's the thing too. Like, I don't think they were friends necessarily. They
weren't friends. They were just, they spoke, and he had given
somebody that's one, like Rush said, I'm looking forward to seeing this, a few more times and really digging into it. But like, he just saw the inhumanity of that action, of like the brutality of a gunshot, just to a head of a human being. So like, yeah, I don't think there was a relationship there or anything, but it was such a brutal act. And like that part in particular, like, was
solidified Lex Luthor's ruthless brutality.
Yeah, thank you. Yep. Exactly.
Well, when I said earlier, yes, there's some things I realized you don't need to see them again. But maybe my favorite thing in cinema, not just comic books, is reveals. Like the reactions of people seeing things for the first time, or learning things for the first time.
Yeah.
And when Lois and Clark are talking, it's a theme throughout the movie. It's very, very different, that the lines are blurred, right? It's not, she's talking to Superman, she doesn't know who he is and all those things. So we don't get that reveal. And at the same time, we don't get the backstory of their relationship. And yes, as fans, we know their typical backstory, but considering how different this is, we don't really know their backstory. We don't know how they started dating. We don't know how she found out about him. We don't know how she necessarily feels about it, because she goes into reporter mode, which doesn't necessarily explain how she feels, is how she feels about him. And then I was a bit taken aback at the end of that conversation when she's like, maybe it doesn't work out. She was just very curt about it. I will say what didn't help is the start. Okay, I love dogs, and I thought Crypto was great throughout, except the beginning. Right, I'm very he's beaten, he's down, and I thought that would be a good part for a little drama. The dog like beating him up, and that part, I was sort of like, what's happening here? I do feel the second half of the movie was significantly better than the first half of it. So that really brought it back to earth for me, where I was kind of like, man, I don't know what's going on here. And then I was like, okay, familiar with this. I like this. I'm liking this aspect. You're giving more drama of it. But that's one thing that I'm going to struggle with, because I don't know if we're ever going to get that now in this universe, is the reveal, right? Like the nonchalance of Guy Gardner being like, you know who he is? Like the hypno glasses, which was funny, right? But like, think about it this way. For the Smallville fans out there, which is the exact opposite and not the way I would go ever again, is taking like 4 or 5 seasons to reveal things, which was painful. That was painful. It drove people nuts. It drove me nuts. Like the relationship with Clark and Lana went on way too long with screwing her around and stuff. But like the ultimate reveals like you build up to are such a thrill, you know?
Don't you? I mean, now that you say that, like and I'm just thinking about this. I kind of feel like him already having revealed his identity to Justice Gang, to Lois,
We
and
missed out on it a little bit.
well, I feel like it. Now I'm just thinking about this. You know, it was a good add-on to showing that he needs people, that he is a person, that he is, you know, a human, you know, mentally, and he needs others, and part of that is, you know, sharing intimate things about himself. And one of the things, you know, which is probably the biggest thing on his shoulders, is who he actually is. I felt that, you know, to me, I don't really care about the him like telling Lois or somebody else like that. You know, maybe like if there's an interaction between him and Batman in the future, and like the big reveal to, like, you know, that they reveal each other to each other. I mean, that would be cool, because it would be like show like a trust type thing. But yeah, no, I was just thinking about it as you were saying it, because I did kind of feel like it added to his humanity, and his personality. Because, like, again, one of the things you can say about Superman movies in the past is his lack of character arc. His character arc in this, I kind of feel, was a whole lot better. Only because, like, you know, it showed him being vulnerable, needing, you know, relationships, getting irritated when getting pressed with questions, and then, you know, showing later on, you know, when he DOJ like gave like a warrant for his arrest. He's like, all right, I'm going to go turn myself in. I'm going to do the right thing. And that just, you know, kind of led into the other aspects where, you know, won over Metamorpho, and then him, you know, just inspiring hope with that one country. So I don't know. I mean, to me, I kind of like it, and I thought there was a good character arc with Superman in this one, more than the other ones.
Well, yeah, I like the lack of backstory personally. It's very George Lucas of James Gunn to go about it this way, you know, kind of like episode 4, you're like just brought into the story, you know, and I did really like the fact that there was a crawl or, you know, text on screen in the very beginning. That was really cool. And yeah, the lack of backstory, we, as a culture, we understand, you know, like there's a romance and there's probably a backstory there, and maybe we'll get details of that in the future, maybe not. I don't really care. Like, that's the thing, is like we do have these alternate universes of DC to like explore those things. You know, you have the Smallville universe, you have Lois and Clark, which just ended, you know, which was like a very, very heavy relationship focused show. I didn't watch it myself, but like, as far as I understand, it was, you know, the super family and all that. So, you know, I'm okay because of those types of things. I'm okay with this foregoing that and just kind of getting into the action. And it's about him, you know, he's part of a team right now, but he's showing leadership now. You know, like, and that's the big thing with the international conflict that they had. You know, he inspired others to do the right thing, you know, and politics aside, you know, obviously we're not getting into that. It's about, in the movie, it's about doing the right thing. And he inspired others to do the right thing in that case. So
I was inspired when they did that chord with the guitar, man. I'll tell you that.
Hey, no, I like that too. I mean, it's, let me say this. It's, as someone I feel like, I guess, is maybe ingrained in a certain ethos of Superman for a very long time, and seeing him as this godlike figure, which is not necessarily comic book accurate, right? And then so many of those aspects being turned on their head in so many ways in one movie was a bit hard for me to swallow. But I think the beauty and the genius of James Gunn is that Marvel, I don't think you can argue that they didn't do it. They did it as close to perfect as you could do it, right? But if we're comparing here and what James Gunn's probably going for, which I would argue is the longevity factor. He's probably not going for a 10-year span. He's probably going for 20, 30-year span here. is that maybe Marvel shot their shot a little bit too early in some of these things.
Real quick, not to cut you off, but Marvel was winging it. They didn't have like a master plan. They were winging it with like a box of scraps that they had. They had Iron Man.
Like Tony Stark with a box of scraps.
Yeah, exactly. So they're working from that. So DC is already a leg ahead. They have a 20-year something plan. So sorry.
No. Listen, and there's tons of things I loved about it. Like I thought Lex Luthor was great. I want to understand what they're doing with Ultraman and Bizarro, and I don't know if we'll maybe ever see him again.
I would be fine if we never see him again, or if we don't. I think I have an inkling that we will, but like if we don't, like whatever. And so like if it's 5 movies from now, awesome. That's like awesome if they put it off that long. So.
Right, but it's just it opened up the possibilities in such a large way. The pocket dimensions, like Mr. Terrific. The Green Lantern Corps, the Justice Gang. Like, I think there's a ton of stuff to open it up to that's going to be pretty incredible. I hear you guys because I think the majority of people that I've heard and listened to don't care about. I don't really necessarily care about the origin stuff, but I do like the reveal stuff. I hope that the beauty of a universe like this is that you can do flashbacks, you can do portions of movies. But I tend to agree with that you don't need the basis of the movie to be so formulaic. Like, here's the beginning. Here's how his parents, like, we don't need to see Bruce Wayne's parents die again, right? Like, we don't need to see all that. I've heard that a lot. I've heard that a lot over the last week. We don't need to see these things again. And it's weird because I'm like, I'm not sitting here going like, oh, I didn't like this and whatever. It's like, I'm seeing the future a little bit here with what they're doing, and I'm liking it. And I think here's an important part. The original Superman was good. It was very good. The second Superman was great. Second Superman is, in my opinion, the best comic book movie of all time, up there. And I put it, the second best, in my opinion, is Logan. But I think it opens up you to, you're not, like, again, our first movie is the greatest thing we ever did. And then we're going to try to top that. Right. Not saying that was the purposeful thing, but in my mind, for what I like, because again, he's talked about this a lot. You can't try and please everybody. Right. Yeah. And this is probably what he likes. And I think, thinking optimistically here, I might like the second movie a lot more than I like the first movie, or maybe even the third one. So, and that gives me a lot of hope for what the whole universe is going to be.
Yeah. And so speaking of the second movie is going to be Supergirl. And they started putting out movie posters now. And I don't know if you guys saw the Look Up posters, and she has spray painted in red, Look Out instead of Look Up, which I just think as a designer myself, like, that's a genius touch. It's a very subtle thing with a tagline, and it's corny, and that's why it works. And so, yeah, I bring up that as the second movie because I think they might fill in some of that backstory. And it might be more of a linear reveal type story with that. I haven't read Woman of Tomorrow. Well, I'm not going to until the movie comes out. But like, that could potentially fill in a lot of the gaps. If she's like drunk and talking like, I'm supposed to come to Earth to, be your big sister and your big cousin and help you, and you're already grown and all this shit. And my parents are dead. Everybody's dead. And then we get that via that. So
Billy, that's probably my favorite aspect, by the way. You didn't need to read a ton into it, but I didn't need to hear a lot to realize, I think that probably anyone out there might be like, oh, what, she drunk? What's the issue? That's not her. It's like, no, that makes a ton of sense. If you know anything about Supergirl, her last iteration of home was seeing everyone she's ever loved die. Her entire planet died. She saw it. He didn't see it, right? She wasn't raised by these great parents in Kansas. Like, she didn't get any of that. So I think I really like that huge, conflict between the two and how different they are.
Yeah.
Rush, don't you think that kind of contributes to what you didn't like about Crypto at the beginning of the movie?
Yeah,
that's what I was going to bring up.
Crypto is her dog.
When I saw that at the end, I was like, okay, that makes a ton.
Right.
That's why
the bad trainer. She didn't train the dog.
The rewatchability of this movie is going to be great because you go back to that first scene. And yeah, thanks, Nick. I was going to jump in and we went on to something else. Yeah, totally. Like, I hated that intro scene when it came out as like the extended trailer, and we saw, I watched that version, and before the movie came out, and like the dog was jumping on him, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
But then having seen that end scene, it's like, oh my gosh, she lets him do that. And that's why, like, when my dog came up here a second ago, I got a new dog, Rush, on Sunday.
That's a great looking dog.
Thank you. And yeah, he's a pain in the ass too. And so like, it makes total sense that like you get a pain in the ass dog and you don't train it, and then you give it to your cousin for a weekend, it's going to be a pain in the ass. So.
Yep.
So let's go and kind of move on to other aspects of the movie. Rush, why don't you start with just something, what you didn't like, and then what you kind of after, I know you said you had a lot of change of, mindset on that, what you did like.
Sure.
What stood out, there's a lot of aspects of the first movie in this, as far as the certain things, you know what I'm saying, but.
Sure. I'm going to say something a little contradictory here. I had said to you guys earlier that I didn't like that his dad was still alive because it plays such a pivotal role in taking flight. And it's really him going to rock bottom and coming back to the top. And I know that you can use that for later because he does seem more optimistic than I think he should be with the things that he's faced or the things that he's gone through. I mean, that's part of the beauty of Superman is that he goes through those things, yet he persevered, and that he is that shining light. But hey, you can take it in any direction you want. That's something different here that we're going in. But that's one of the things where I'm like, that to me is kind of pivotal to like his development before he even becomes Superman, before he even puts the cape on. He lost his dad, and his dad was everything to him, and him having to overcome that. Now, they may be using his birth father, thinking he was who he was, now realizing he's not who he is, and that's the overcoming. Maybe that's a bit of what they're going with there, and I can see that, and I like that. That was an issue I had there. And then to piggyback on that point, it's I didn't necessarily dislike the bad message because in Smallville, that's something they do. And again,
I love the bad message.
Again, this is something I want to continue to harp on, is that this is something that I've realized was part of my reaction that I need to kind of get over, is that you can't get too pinned down on one way the story was done or even how the comic book was written, right? Because it's so many different ways, it's different universes, it's different interpretations. But an example that was previously done like that was in Smallville. Superman himself, Christopher Reeve, is paralyzed. He's a billionaire, showing Clark the message that his parents sent him. And at first, it's a hopeful message. And I don't know if they were using it off of this, but then he reveals more of the message. And it says they're a weak race, rule them with strength. And that's part of it. He's got to go, wow, I thought my father was bad. And then there's a few seasons where he thinks Jor-El's this really bad person. And that kind of evolves a little bit, but he has to go, wait, I was raised by these people. I didn't even know who my birth father was. And I only thought he was good for like a day or two. Now he's telling me I need to rule with strength. Mm-hmm. So I didn't necessarily dislike that part. I thought that was kind of like, okay, that kind of makes sense. Like
it makes total sense. Yeah. Especially when the movie was originally titled Superman: Legacy. Like it makes sense because it's like, he chose, like, I kind of wish they would have kept that title. Like Superman, yes, is cleaner of a movie title, but Superman: Legacy, it really kind of puts that into perspective. Like he chose his legacy, what his legacy is going to be in this movie. Right. And just skipping back just slightly to the Paul Kent, like still being alive thing. I kind of feel like the sense that I got, why I'm okay with it, is because they're building up to a different type of like first flight. Like, you know, like he's going to go to the next level when that happens. And like, it's exactly what Hollywood's doing with different things like Spider-Man. You know, they did a reverse Aunt May.
Yes.
Or reverse Aunt
totally.
Uncle Ben, sorry.
Right.
And, you know,
I'm not even sure Uncle Ben exists in that universe.
Yeah, exactly. Like they never really talked about him. We saw the his initials on that trunk in that one movie, but like whatever, like it wasn't a big thing. just like we're talking about with Superman, there is that backstory there, but we still haven't gotten the Uncle Ben story.
I will say this, Billy. It is overall better than Pa Kent dying purposely in a tornado. That like, I'd rather you not kill him than do that. I will fully admit that, and I'm fully on board with you there, because I was like, dude, in no world does Superman have a chance to save his dad right in front of him and not do it. Like that doesn't track in any universe.
Literally takes 1 second, and you can do like
no one would even see it. No one would even see it.
No one would even see it.
It's ridiculous.
So, yeah. Nick, what are we going on to?
Well, you know, I could add on this, and I'll segue it. So that whole aspect of him being who he was, like, you know, he is who he is because he was raised from an infant by these good people in Kansas, because his mentality, it's, you know, his intelligence is, you know, just like a human, where, you know, it's nature over nurture type of deal. And how powerful that is, where, you know, if you are raised the right way, you are, you know, essentially, you know, okay, so my birth parents are apparently not tyrants, but telling me that I need to go take over the world, but I don't feel I should do that because I know that's wrong, because my dad raised me to be this other person. Mm-hmm. He's overcoming this. There's nothing in him pushing him, like instinct, to be, you know, this overlord type deal.
Yeah, he's not at all like that's natural to me. Like, not at all.
That being said, I wanted to touch on why Lex Luthor is just, you know, why he shows intelligence over brawn. He is a normal human, and all he did was think of every aspect, you know, put the scenario, he set the scenario, he set the stage, and he overcame the most powerful being in maybe the galaxy or the universe. Just because of, you know, using his intelligence, because Superman's intelligence is that of a human's. And again, it's just showing that, you know, the power of outsmarting, you know, someone who's stronger than you. This is why, again, I'm going to say it, Batman tends to win over Superman because he uses his intelligence. And which is why, again, I love Batman, because he's, you know, just the most relatable, because he is human. But, you know, granted, he is the most rich person on earth. But I thought that was a great aspect of this movie. I thought there was a great portrayal by Nicholas Hoult in this movie. His just straight up obsession and drive and what it can achieve kind of a deal. I also kind of liked, and, you know, we'll segue onto Lex Luthor here. I loved his portrayal of Lex Luthor. I thought, in my opinion, so my number one is the animated Lex Luthor. The animated Lex Luthor in the Superman and Justice League animated shows from the 90s and early 2000s. That's my favorite Lex Luthor. Nicholas Hoult is now my second. Just his portrayal of his just insanity, his ruthlessness, his inhumanity, his brutality, and you could say his humanity, because he used, you know, his intelligence to outsmart the most strongest being there is. I loved how you know, this will touch back to how the universe was already there when we started the movie, how they just had these portals to this pocket universe that he created by making a Big Bang. I loved how that was just introduced. Usually in those sort of circumstances, when you're like getting all these things, you know, when you're in the middle of a universe. Let's see here.
I'm just jumping in with my ranking of Lex Luthor.
I gotta give mine too.
Last. I mean,
yeah. How do you have Hackman last?
Yeah, I mean,
last. I know this is controversial, but I have never liked him as Lex Luthor. I have never.
But he has the greatest Lex Luthor line, maybe any line in
he has a couple lines, but that doesn't make him an overall best Luthor. What's your line?
Well, it's that some people can read. What is it? Some people can read the what is it? The art of or it's the God, what's the Sun Tzu book? The Art
of War.
Some people can read The Art of War and come across thinking it's some sort of fabled story. Others can read the back of a bazooka bubblegum wrapper and discover the secrets of the universe. Like, I didn't deliver it as perfectly, but it's like, holy shit. They use that line in Ready Player One.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
it's such a like, holy shit. Like, it gets to his genius of how, like, I'll find it anywhere. I'll figure it out anywhere. I don't need to be your traditional genius. And I have a very different list than you, both of you, on Lex Luthor, by the way.
Yeah. Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, Nick, finish. Well, Rush,
Yeah.
give us.
Yeah, I'll just finish it real quick. I thought, in a lot of times when you see these type of movies where you're just jumping into an already set up universe where they're not doing a lot of backstory and there's a lot of things already there, I thought the way this movie introduced us to like things like, hey, there's a portal here. Lex Luthor created a pocket universe by recreating the Big Bang. I thought that was a great. For some reason, it worked. The way he explained it, because number one, you can believe that Lex Luthor, who is supposedly, according to the animated Lex Luthor, is a 12th level intellect, which is like one of the.
By the time in the movie, like by the time in the movie, it's set up that like that's like plausible. Like, yeah, I buy that.
Yeah, the tone of it just worked, and I really like that. And when Nicholas Hoult was, getting Superman to submit by, doing the, easiest thing someone would do by just kidnapping somebody that they would care about, and Superman cares for everybody. And, putting a gun to their head and being like, I'm going to kill this person unless you do what I want. That just showed his, absolute insanity, his ruthlessness. And then I also loved his speech at the very end when he was just getting really intense with Superman before he got knocked over. I thought that was great. But Rush, one of the things I wanted to know if you picked up or thought of this. So in the original Superman, Lex Luthor's sidekick or assistant was that dopey. Yeah, it was that dopey Otis.
Eve Taskmacher.
Yeah. I saw a straight up parallel between him and this new movie's Lex Luthor's girlfriend, who's just
when my mom lives in Hackensack, right? Yeah, he's about to nuke her mother. She goes, but Lex, my mom lives in Hackensack, and he looks at his watch. He looks at his watch and he goes, which is Gene Hackman's delivery and some of these things is so perfect because he's so like. I would say this about Gene Hackman: he did more with saying less than I think with all of them. And it's so hard because like I'll give you my list in a second. But Rosenbaum's my favorite because I got to see him over such a long period of time.
I forgot about him.
And his speech in the final episode of the series is so freaking good. He's right? Because Superman says to him, I can't save him. And he goes, I can't save the world. And he goes, you can't, but we both know who can. And like it's so good. But Gene Hackman says less but does more. And I will say I think Nicholas Hoult was probably the most evil iteration of him with the shoot in the head and all that stuff. Here's can you see this?
No, pull it back.
You can't see it. I'll just say it. Okay. My list is Rosenbaum, Hackman, Hoult, and then Spacey. I did not have the benefit of the. I wasn't too familiar with the cartoon one. And listen, Spacey's obviously a piece of shit. But
yeah, I had him.
He was not bad. He was not bad in that one. I thought he was the highlight of that movie, to be honest, which had a lot of faults. But Rosenbaum's always going to be my favorite, as you know, Nick, and I think I've told you, Billy. I read lines with Rosenbaum.
Oh yeah,
and he critiqued me as I read lines to Superman, which was wild. And listen, I want to be clear. I'm not saying Nicholas Hoult is bad. I thought he was fantastic. I grew up with Gene Hackman, and you would think he'd be my first. But Rosenbaum, I mean, I've watched the Smallville series all the way through several times. Like I can't get enough, and I rewatched the podcast.
So yours were Rosie, Hackman, Spacey.
No. Hoult and then Spacey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then Nick, you were animated, and then Holt, and then
and then we go Hackman after that, and then Hackman, then Rosenbaum, and then Spacey. But yeah.
cool. I just wrote that down for posterity.
Do you guys want to kind of touch on? So, what do you think about the Justice Gang and their portrayals? I know I touched on this before with Billy, but I don't know if you know this, Bill Rush, because in the new animated universe, DC universe, well, not new, but from the 2008 through I think like 2022 or 2023, the voice of Green Lantern was Nathan Fillion, who is.
Oh. I think I've heard that, yeah. Which I just love him as an actor, man. I think he's fantastic. I think he's so funny.
And I think that his portrayal has a lot of future. I want to say, like there
he was maybe my highlight of the movie, man. I was gotta say that. I thought he was perfect. I loved it. I thought he was hilarious. I loved every bit of that guy. I did. Yeah.
Did you hear that? So the new Green Lantern, was it HBO or Showtime? HBO series.
I like all the actors that they're using as Green Lanterns. I like them a lot, actually.
So
the HBO series, yeah.
Yes.
We were speculating
the Hal Jordan and the young one. Like I think they're. I love the actors. Love them.
Yeah, I don't know the younger guy.
The younger guy, the black guy that's playing it is a brilliant actor. He's only been in a few things. There's a Netflix movie. There's a Netflix movie that he's on. Mm-hmm. It's like a small town. It's sort of like The Rock did a movie called where he comes in as the sheriff with the
Rundown.
Yeah,
not the rundown. It's
very similar to that, and that actor's sick.
Yeah, Johnny.
That guy's gonna be big, and I'm just a fan of his, so I'm really glad that he's in that position.
And did you guys hear the interviews? A couple of interviews came out today of James Gunn, and he alluded to that series focusing more. Like the question the interviewer asked was like, "Who's the star of the show?" And he said, "Oh, basically, it's Jon Stewart. Like it's Jon Stewart's story."
And that's him. That's him, I think.
Yeah. And so, like, that's the thing is, like, I think the spotlight's going to be on him. It's going to be kind of like a Men in Black type story. I was listening to John Campea earlier, and he mentioned this too. I had that in my head. John Campea, you did not say that, or you said that first. You didn't think it first. Yeah, I think it's going to be like a Men in Black where, Tommy Lee Jones is handing down the baton, finding his replacement for.
Do you know the name of the actor that's the mentor? He was in the recent Godzilla movies. He was in the.
Yeah, I know.
I'm a fan of his. I like him a lot too. Yeah.
He reminds me of you every time I see him. He just has that kind of like look. Friday Night Lights he was in, and he was in Bloodlines on Netflix. He's a really, really great actor, and as a seasoned Hal Jordan, he's gonna be phenomenal. I cannot wait for that show.
Yeah.
The reason I did bring this up and I was talking about Guy Gardner is what I've maybe heard, I don't know, is they came to investigate the death of another Green Lantern, and supposedly that might be Guy Gardner.
That was you and me speculating, Nick.
Well, I actually did hear that, though.
What's officially been said is that they're coming to investigate an interstellar event in the Midwest.
Okay.
So, like, that could mean.
I'm pretty positive.
It could be a death. It could be the death.
I would say this just to reiterate a point I made earlier to not get pinned down on previous stories, right? Because, listen, I'm fully aware of the power and the history, generally speaking, of Green Lantern. But, like, a lot of people are using, like, the Ryan Reynolds movie to go off of, right? And it's like, oh, there can only be one Green Lantern in a sector or whatever. And it's I would essentially throw away the majority of that movie as far as, like, backstory, right? I do think there are actually some positive aspects of that movie. Generally, it's not that great. But again, we all like to, well, whatever we've seen, we'll go, oh, that's the way it should be. I think we've got to get more into, like, one, like, there's a possibility we might see multiple Supermen. Like just like we'll see multiple Green Lanterns. Like there will be different universes where it's a different character or a different actor or whatever.
Don't give the Cavill fans, well, the Snyder Bros.
Did you? Yes, you're right. But did you see the recent interview? I just saw it today with Gunn talking about how he had to break the news to Henry Cavill, which I thought was beautiful and powerful. Was him and Peter Safran, the two co-heads of DC Studio, go, if we're going to tell him, we need to bring him in and sit him down. We can't call him or do this. They brought him in and he goes, Henry Cavill is such a good dude, like such a good guy. And it broke my heart to tell him this, but he took it in stride and was like such a good guy about it. And he even said, which we were already thinking, if you think of something else in the universe, and they're like, yeah, absolutely. Like because the interviewer goes, because he was the former Superman, would you not include him in the universe? And he's like, absolutely. I'd absolutely include him. He's a fantastic actor. And that's separate from what we're doing. That would defeat the entire purpose. I'm not going to use those actors anymore. They're using Jason Momoa as Lobo.
Henry Cavill as Zod with a beard. He grows a beard.
That'd be
goes
dope.
along, maybe or something.
Hey, that could be tight. A lot of people keep saying Batman. I'm not sure if you want to go that route, but that would be tight. That would be tight with Zod.
Hey, so we're getting a little bit off topic. Let me make one more point. Circling back to just Superman being a part of the Justice Gang and the Justice Gang's portrayal in the movie, like Green Lantern. Like I love Guy Gardner. I was drawing a blank for a second. I love that he swung a big giant baseball bat at one point. That was just like chef's kiss at that point. And what I love is the Hall of Justice is under construction. The Justice Gang can't even decide on a name. We know it's going to evolve into maybe the Justice Gang evolves into the Justice Society and then breaks off, and then the Justice League gets established.
I can see them harkening back to the Justice Society in the past and maybe doing Justice League in the future. Or you're right, maybe they could just.
Well, if you look in the Justice Gang, the future Justice Hall of America, you see a portrayal of the Justice Society in there and like hanging up on the wall.
Okay.
So this will, if it'll be the Justice League of America is what it is.
That's one of the many reasons I need to see this thing again, to start looking for all those Easter eggs. I'm sure there's a million I didn't see.
Yeah, that's mural.
The only reason I saw that one is because I saw somebody had like dissected it, but like I was like, oh shit, like okay, at least they're acknowledging that they existed beforehand.
Yeah. Well, that mural and all the Easter eggs in that scene are fascinating, but like focusing on like the scenes in the actual movie, like they're I'm not taking
keep going.
I'm not taking anything away from what you said, but like
no, you're good. No.
They're like thematically, arc-wise, they're building up to the Justice League. Like we're gonna meet obviously Batman, we're gonna meet Wonder Woman, Aquaman, those all the founding members of the Justice League of America. And so like, whatever they end up calling who's ever on the mural, if it's the Justice League of International or International Justice League, or they were the Justice Society 1, and then we get to see Hawkgirl establish the Justice Society 2 or something. Meanwhile, the main Justice League, and that's my point, is like that's what I'm looking forward to. This movie was like a ragtag gang of misfits, kind of like Suicide Squad, only like good. And we're gonna get like the real deal heroes in the future. And so like it's all building, it's all part of an arc. So that's what I loved about it.
What did you guys think of putting kind of in the spotlight a character that's never gotten his dues, which is, if you follow Justice League, he's literally like the Martian Manhunter, where he runs the Justice League. He's the smartest man, literally probably the smartest man on earth, Mr. Terrific. I thought the portrayal was great. There was not too many of these corny jokes, because again, we were talking about how James Gunn did Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm not the biggest Guardians of the Galaxy fan. I thought there was just I thought there was just way too much comedic stuff going on, and
I thought the third one, I thought the first two were genius. Yeah.
First one was great to me. Second one was too jokey. Third one was too depressing, and I didn't like all the animal cruelty type stuff. But
one thing that I thought was I totally agree with you, Mr. Terrific. The first time I ever saw Mr. Terrific was on the Flash show. That's now on Netflix, but it was on WB, and I really like that show. It fizzled out a little bit. The first 3 seasons are epic, and they did a really good job portraying him, and I really like him. But one thing that I saw pointed out that I think makes a lot of sense was the end credit scenes. I want to focus on this a little bit because I was so disappointed, right? But I think that's fair because James Gunn had said you hamstring future directors by putting like this is the way that movie's going to go the next movie, and they haven't even made the movie yet. They haven't even finished the script, right? And I think that's really smart. But I think, and I think this is accurate that a few people have said this, that in the end, when you see him put the universe is back together and Superman's complaining to Mr. Terrific and he's like, what the hell? That was kind of a James Gunn going, I'm putting the universe the way I want it to, and not everyone's going to be happy with it, but like that's the way they're doing it. So get over it, essentially.
Right.
Like totally on board with, right? It's like, it's not Zack Snyder's universe. It's not Richard Donner's universe. It's mine. And it's not the one you're used to, but it's the one we're going with. So get on board, essentially, which is the way I took it, and I totally agree with it.
And what I liked, and the quote I want to bring up is he was gave a statement that the DC movies that he's going to be making in this universe are going to have their own tone, and I.
Nick freeze.
Nick, you froze.
Nick, come back.
Nick,
totally different, type of a deal, or like the Batman movie, but we're all in the same universe. What was that?
You froze.
You froze for like 10 seconds.
Oh, my bad.
Just go back to you started with
I'll start over.
There's going to be different tones for each movie.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's great that that was established that the tone for each one of these movies is going to be different, and they're all in the same universe. Because again, it's like you heard, and I know Rush, you had kind of said this too. You wish there was at first there was more of a serious vibe to it, but you are going to see like a Clayface movie or a Batman movie that's going to have a totally different vibe, a dark vibe. Clayface is going to be rated R, type of deal. I mean, you can kind of see this with if you've seen Creature Commandos. It's a little bit more jokey than the Superman movie is, but they are known to be in this. It's established that they're in the same universe. You check out Peacemaker. Peacemaker, you can definitely say, is more of cartoonish almost.
It fits both.
Right, yeah. And it's good. I like it. Maybe things work differently around Peacemaker than they do over around Superman. Things. I think it's good because it's not setting exactly what you said, Rush. It's not setting people's expectations from these past things where it's just like, okay, so this is how this is going to go.
That's why Peacemaker is coming out in August next month, and I'm really looking forward to how they handle things in that movie, because just what you're saying, like the tone is going to shift project to project, but where Peacemaker kind of falls in perfectly in the middle, and I think James Gunn recognized that really early on with the Suicide Squad when he did that, and that's why he wanted to give him Chris's own show, is that he fits the bill for comedy and seriousness, and his father's extremely racist, but also he can be ridiculous and like say, it's just all over the place. And in that trailer for season 2, we see that there's going to be some interdimensional shenanigans, and we're going to get that merging of worlds like we have been wanting for a while. And that's the entry point. To me, that's what I'm looking forward to with season 2 of Peacemakers. It's going to be the entry point in more deeper into the world that we got in Superman. So seeing his cameo in Superman was like, it popped for me in the theater. I was like, yeah.
Well, it added to his character, man. He was just like, dude, like these guys, like they fucking suck. Like, dude. But so going back to just what you kind of said, interdimensional and Peacemaker. So you see the scene where Lois and Superman are having, a relationship talk, and there's a big thing going on that the Justice gang is fighting in the background, like a big old jellyfish eyeball.
Yeah.
And Superman goes, it's a fifth dimensional imp.
Yeah.
And you hear in Peacemaker season 1, the Economist says something where it's along the lines of, I'd rather be, with Batmite right now. And he's like, who's Batmite? He's a fifth dimensional lib. So it's established that Batmite and Mr. Mxyzptlk exist in that.
Mxyzptlk's a big character. But wait, is that thing? Is that the one from the Suicide Squad movie, the good one?
No. So in the Superman movie, when Superman and Lois are having that heart-to-heart in that big old
that's
jellyfish eye things in the background, he goes, he's like, hey, you gonna do anything? He's like, nah, they got this. It's just a fifth dimensional imp. And so it could be either Batmite or
I don't think that is Batmite. I watched that video that you sent me, Nick, and that guy was making the claim that is Batmite. How is that?
No. James Gunn said he wants to bring that up in another movie.
Right. No, if you look at the thing, James Gunn he loves Batmite. But the point of that video was it just establishes that Batmite is known in that universe because in Peacemaker season 1 they bring it up and he's like, yeah, this Batmite is real. He's a fifth dimensional imp. So
stands for Batman.
Go ahead. Can I bring up something about Batman?
Yeah,
I'm kind of excited. Okay.
No. Let's talk about Batman, please.
So I'm very excited about the fact because I think a lot of these things aren't just what fans realize. I not like just comic book fans, but fans of the arc over time, all the way back to Michael Keaton Batman. That I hadn't thought about it this way until I heard this great interview with Christian Bale, and his love for what he did in those movies, and especially for what Heath Ledger did, I think is monumental because he said to Christopher Nolan, we need to be careful here because in a lot of these movies, the villain is much more interesting than Batman. And he was like, well, holy shit. We started watching the movie back and we're like, he's way more interesting than Batman.
Yeah.
There's so many from him to Penguin to Bane to Clayface. And now knowing that there's going to be a Clayface movie and there's going to be a Bane movie and those things, I'm excited about that. I got to admit, I'm only actually halfway through the Penguin series, which I'm not. I'm not super into it because it's so solely focused on him and it's a little more human, which is fine. But there's so many great Batman characters. Typically in a lot of movies, when you have too many villains, it can become a problem. But I never saw it as a problem in any of the Batman movies. Even the ridiculous one with Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones. I love that. I think it's great, right? I think it's a really good movie. And you've got all these villains and putting them in the universe as the main characters, that's what kind of a theme with Batman. Batman is a little more reserved, lean into it. Right. And that's what I'm most excited about James Gunn. And I think DC's gone, hey, you had a great formula over there with Marvel and you realized what was going on, what was bad going on over there. We're going to give you the reins here. We're essentially going to take off. I feel he got fired. He had to deal with this bullshit and all this stuff. And they're we're going to take a chance on you regardless of any of that stuff because you're going to go for it. He's not going to go, I'm going to 80-90% this movie because that's what the studio wants or that's what I've got to do. If he's going to flop with the movie, he's going to go 110% on it. And that's what I love about James Gunn. And honestly, I think him and Zack Snyder have the same kind of concept with that. Snyder can be a little more formulaic with how he does things, but they're both I'm putting my heart and soul to this thing. And if you don't like it, fine, but I went for it. And I think that's what James Gunn's going to bring to this.
Do you think this new formula, non-formula is something, because, you were just talking about, the villains are more interesting than the main character. Do you think it's more of because I can kind of see when you said that in this Superman movie, you didn't really have too much of, the villain, Lex Luthor. You didn't have too much of Superman, the, protagonist. You kind of had a little bit of both, maybe like 60%, Superman, 40% Lex Luthor type of a deal, like character arcs. Do you think that might be his kind of, formula for this moving forward?
I wouldn't try and pin it down like that, because
not agree that at all.
In this instance, I would say it was maybe multiple aspects of bad guys that really all were, the strings are being pulled by Lex Luthor, right? Yeah. So it wasn't like you have a Two-Face and a Joker, like you've got these kind of separate entities. It was kind of, he really ran the show, and I think now they set it up with Lex Luthor's now in trouble. We're all kind of guessing here with what the history was, but he seemed like the golden boy. It definitely threw me off a little bit. The U.S. government's like, well, take Superman and do whatever you want with him, right? I was like, that was a little bit of a jump for me, right? But now it's like, we gave you all this faith in you, and you completely screwed it up. So anything you're going to be doing is from the shadows now. So now we're going to have these other villains come to light, essentially, in the Superman series. And I would say historically, I think the Batman villains are typically better, but listen, man, Brainiac, Mxyzptlk, like there's a lot of, Doomsday, like there's a ton of great Zod.
One.
Yeah, how did I miss that one? There's a ton of great ones from Superman, and I think if you treat them a little bit more like they're the Batman universe, you've got an opportunity there to highlight them a little bit more. And listen. Well, like I said, with the villains being more interesting, I don't have a problem with that. I like that, because they are more interesting. Like, people love the Joker more than most things, or like even good guys, right? So I would just say, to your point, Nick, I don't think, and I think it's a very good thing that he's got a certain formula that he's trying to follow, right? And I think that opens it up to so many different interpretations. Going, hey, I can find a director that loves Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing is a show I grew up on.
Yeah, they're going to be like a Swamp Thing movie too.
And he's chosen to make that a main movie, and I'm jacked about it. So that's the type of stuff I'm jacked about.
I think that's unfortunately kind of on the back burner right now. James Mangold is tied to it. But
James Mangold is one of my favorite directors, man. He did.
I know. Yeah. He's focusing on the Star Wars project first, and then turn into Swamp Thing. But shoot, what was the point that I was going to make? I lost my train of thought. Nick, what do you got?
I wanted to kind of go. Let's things I didn't like, because I gave this movie praise. I didn't like how the Fortress of Solitude would come out of the ground and then go back into the ground. I didn't like that. I thought that was kind of stupid. What do you think? What is your take on that? Either one, I don't care.
Yeah, Billy.
I already gave my take real quick. I didn't mind it at all. Like, of course, it's gonna disappear and appear some way. Like, so that makes sense to me.
I'm like ambiguous on it, because it historically, like it made me think about it in a way I never thought about it. Historically speaking, having it erected in one spot in this day and age doesn't make sense. People are gonna find it. Right, like the fact that it can move places and pop up like that, I think just logically makes
more sense. Can it move, or can it just?
I think it moved. Now I may be wrong on that. I may be wrong.
I took it as a fixed location. It can just go up and down and rotate.
Okay, this is a fun part. Anyone who's watching this, I'd like you to chime in or let us know, because that's what I thought. Maybe I'm wrong, and it did seem, Billy, that they went to the same spot it was at. So maybe I'm wrong, but I was thinking, if you're gonna do the pop-up, come back up, it might even make as much sense to move it around, because it didn't seem like it needed to be in a fixed spot, right? It didn't seem like it was grounded in anything or had a foundation. Yeah. But I think logically, I'd never thought about it that way, and it makes a lot of sense. Although, for reasons we found out near the end of the movie, they got by the security in literally 5 seconds, right? Yeah.
By cloning him.
Oh, yes, exactly. Which is a bit of a, whatever. But yeah.
I just watched, real quick, I watched a couple animated Superman movies over the week. And one was All-Star Superman, where he has a key that only he can lift up.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah.
and then like
Yeah.
somebody else, like another Kryptonian comes in and does it, and it's like, oh, that's exactly what James Gunn did in the movie. Like, that's so cool.
So yeah, I was gonna bring that up too, but
There's
I
so many
wanted to-
little things that he like retranslated. Like, like that's why I love like digging back into the comics, and like All-Star Superman, the animated movie, isn't what the comic is. The comic is way better. Like it goes on these side tangents, and the animated movie is just more streamlined and like narrow. But yeah,
So
James Gunn, he plucked little things and reinterpreted them in ways that are so awesome. So
And Billy, I would say this, that, and again, I think I need to go over my bias of this situation, because I think in the long run it'll prove to be a better situation. This movie didn't feel like traditionally there's a beginning and there's an end, and then there's a middle and all that.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like that, right? Whereas it did with the every movie pretty much ever made, right? Or even in the Marvel movies. And I think that they ran out of steam at some point, right? It's like if you can have a ragtag guys of the Justice Gang in the beginning, you can have it in the end, right? And now in Marvel, you've got Sam Wilson, God love him, as Captain America, which doesn't make much sense to me. Although I really did like Thunderbolts, but you're having trouble being like you're the variability and all, it's too much, right? I think what they've done with Superman, which I was again, I'm thinking I didn't really feel there was this beginning and this end. I think James Gunn would respond with, I shoved you into the comic book world.
Yeah.
And movies don't, comic book world doesn't work like movies work. Like that, like it works a completely different way.
What do you mean there wasn't like a clear beginning, middle, and end?
well,
Like,
not like sloppy or anything like that.
No. That's why I'm genuinely like curious.
Sure.
Like, what do you mean?
What I mean is, this is what I think is going to be tough for them, which is going to be good for us, right, guys, for us to pay attention. Is that I think, listen, I took my 8 months pregnant wife to this thing, okay, who's never seen any of this stuff, okay, and if they don't enter it on any type of footing, knowing what's going on generally, and at the end they're a little confused on what's going on, right? I know what world we stepped into, generally speaking. I learned it as we went on, and now I'm excited for the world to continue. I think, listen, I hope I'm wrong here, because the numbers bear out that I'm wrong to begin with. It's the highest grossing single standalone Superman ever, if you want to call it standalone. And it did incredibly well. And listen, I'm excited about this. I don't want to sit here and go, oh, Rush, you're right, poo-poo this.
Rush, you're not wrong.
Everyone I've heard from that I respect, that the podcasts I listen to, are like, every single one of them have gone, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Like, it hit all the spots I wanted to hit. And I'm like, okay, there's things I'm not seeing. I got to pay a little more attention to. And I'm excited because when you set it up in a way like this, I'm at least confident that there's plenty of things that I didn't see that I probably will see at some point, right? And I think a lot of them make the mistake of going, this is my one shot at a superhero movie. I've got to pack it all in there.
Yeah.
And plenty's packed in there. But I've got to pack in what I think all traditional people like, or I've got to figure out what people that don't usually watch these movies like. And it's like, hey, if you're on board for the whole, what we're trying to build here, you're going to get most of what you want. And I'm excited about that.
So I'll say this, and then I'm going to say three things I wanted to say earlier about what I didn't like. But the way it was done, like you said, there's not like a beginning, middle, and end type of deal, because you're thrown into this universe. But the way they did it, it entered you into a place where there's a huge universe. Like you got these characters, you got this whole past that you don't know about, and you have this whole other, areas of Earth you don't know about.
The universe alone.
Right. And I thought it was done and portrayed in a way that was not overwhelming, but lets you know that this is massive and, type of a deal. I thought that was very well done, because usually, like you said, they're trying to cram things in there, and it's a little bit too much and it becomes convoluted. I don't feel that was I don't feel that happened in this because, like you said, some of the criticism was there's too many superheroes. I don't agree. Like when I first saw the trailers, I thought it was like, oh crap, we're gonna get like hit with all these superheroes. All we got hit with the Justice Gang.
I didn't feel that way at all. I didn't feel that way at all.
Right.
I didn't feel there was too many superheroes. I didn't feel that way. Yeah.
So that being said, I did want to say finish the earlier thing I had with 3 things I didn't like, or the rest of them. When they were fighting that monster that grows, he was going out of the way to save this squirrel. I think he did it like twice. I thought that was kind of stupid.
Yeah.
But the fight, the war between the countries at the end, I know me and Billy had talked about this. That looked like about 300 people versus like an army of like 1,000. When in actuality it would have been like 100,000 versus like 2,000 or something like that. I thought that was the aspect.
It would have been a night of drone strikes and then tanks
right.
over rubble in the morning.
Billy, 100% right. Because they didn't give a fuck about these people and they don't care about the cameras there, they would have, any traditional war, they would have laid down artillery or airstrikes for days, wiped them all off the face of the earth and walked in. Like that's just efficiency. That's the war they were trying to fight. They weren't like, oh, we're gonna go fight these children with sticks and everything. Like they'll just blow them up. Yeah, I agree with you completely. Yeah.
And I will say this, like Rush, I don't get inspired a lot. I mean, Marvel movies really didn't have that inspirational, I was like, God damn, everyone talks about like that point in an Endgame, or was it the one before that when like Thor shows up, or an Endgame when they all come through the portal and everyone's just like, I'm inspired. This though, when the kid pulls up the makeshift Superman flag and they have that like little guitar riff, it's a Superman guitar riff. I'm just like, yeah, man, Superman, let's fucking do this shit. I will give that like 100%. Like it definitely hey, Superman inspires hope.
Let me first say I couldn't disagree with you more that there weren't hopeful moments like that throughout Marvel, because Captain America sure was filled with them, especially Captain America Winter Soldier, or when Bucky dies, like these moments where you're so gripped by what happened, or when Happy gets shot essentially with Captain, or there's so many in my opinion with those, but that was a moment where I had to try and stop myself next to my wife, where I start tearing up a little bit, right, where the kids are holding up the flag, and he's so convinced that people don't want him involved in these things, and he had just, the message had just been played all over the world, and I think he's with his dad, right, and that happens, and he looks at him, or mom and dad, they're like, go, we got this. And it's like, that's what I was looking for. Like, that's the good shit, that's the real, we have faith in you and we want your help.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you hated Ma and Pa Kent.
Hey. Listen, I think again, in hindsight, I think seeing them right off the bat and then going back and looking at it, I think has a bit to do with it. But I think universally, and this is again a gripe I will stick on, is Ma and Pa Kent are shown with such a strength and such a faith in him that you don't get without a backstory a little bit, to be fair. But they don't know who Lois Lane is, right? Like, what's her name, Lydia or something? I was like, come on, you don't have the Daily Planet in Kansas, right? He hasn't told you about the woman that he's in love with, that he's been dating, pining over for years, and she's the greatest reporter in the world. I don't care where you are, if you're in the middle of Kansas, you know who Lois Lane is. Okay, I thought that was a little much, right?
I didn't think
the bumpkin aspect of
that.
It's
Lois Lane. Come on,
apparent. Yeah,
it made them seem like real simpletons, right?
Right,
and they're not. They're not. They raised a superpowered being to be the greatest being that's ever been.
Right. Yeah, it was kind of like a jab to middle America, and I didn't like that.
Yeah.
I didn't take it as a jab. I thought it was as a man from Missouri, I thought it was very reflective of rural Missouri.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, but not if your son is trying to be a journalist.
Yeah.
Okay, for the paper that Lois Lane works for.
I get it. I get it. I think it was a small sample. Like you guys talking through that, it was a small sample size of the characters.
Right.
We didn't get enough of the backstory, the fleshing out of the relationship, and the, he's no like physical Kevin Costner, but maybe like his words.
Oh, I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with that.
What did you say though? The good portrayal of them though, like because I know we're saying a lot of negatives of them. The good portrayal of them was that they are portrayed as good people with good values, and that's what they instilled in Superman, and that's what was shining throughout his whole character arc.
What led him to choose the legacy that he chose?
Yes, but something I feel like I got to go back to here from the 1978 original Superman. Is just like I said about Lex Luthor, Pa Kent was saying very little and being in the movie very little expressed. I mean, I can't. He says very few words, but they're powerful words that he says to Clark. And when he dies, it's so visceral.
I know.
And again, it's with very few words, with very few hunky-dory things, or having any involvement in what happens later in the movie. Very few words. That's the acting. Like that's the power of the gravitas of what they had, and that was my point. Of I think there was a little overboard of let's make them very simple and people will read into their backstory and all that.
Yeah, I hear you.
I don't think you had to. They didn't do that in the original Superman. There wasn't really a backstory on the parents. They just found them at the beginning. The dad had maybe 3 minutes of screen time and was the most powerful, important character in the entire movie. You can make that argument. So that's one thing I'll stick on to where I'm like, that's what the issue I have with Ma and Pa Kent. Like, I hopefully we'll see a little bit more in that. And maybe you're right. Well, everyone's already, I think there's an assumption from everything I've seen is that we will see him die and you'll have more opportunity to show him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I feel there's very few moments in cinema where the father barely said anything. And through the acting of both the Superman, the young Superman there, and the father himself, brought so much passion to it.
And
I mean, go ahead.
Real quick to touch back on the tornado scene in Man of Steel. Not to rag on it again, but like that's why that scene did not work for me because the 70s/80s movie, he experienced something with all his great powers that he was developing and all these great abilities. He couldn't save a heart attack. Like that's not something he had power.
Yes.
He doesn't have power over
Such a good point.
Somebody else's heart.
Such a good point.
And so like that's why the tornado did not work for me because it's like no, that's not the choice that he makes. It's a realization that he comes to. In the comics, that's never been a tornado like that.
Well, exactly to your point, Billy. Like when he blame himself in the future for his dad dying, maybe because of the stress of him or whatever, you can't blame yourself.
Oh.
When you literally could have saved him, you can absolutely blame yourself. You can absolutely blame yourself because you're the only motherfucker on the planet could have done something about it. You absolutely could have.
So I'll give us our last bit here. So I'll say this last thing of what I didn't like because I want to hear your guys' kind of views on it. And then the last thing I think we should do is just kind of touch on how and where we think the James Gunn DC universe is going. And then we'll wrap it up. So the last thing was just I guess you can say just the engineer or the use of the term nanites, where they're just this special thing that just can do anything. So like,
people's lungs.
Right. Mr. Turbo can use nanites, and then the engineer is apparently the T-1000 that can just absolutely morph into anything and do anything and can connect like to anything. Like, okay, so to me, that was just a little bit of just exposition where it's just like, hey, yeah, this is that thing, type of a deal. I don't know. What did you guys think?
Of the nanites in particular, I didn't mind it. It felt like they were skipping ahead a little bit. Like I always talk, I don't like nanotech unless it's earned. And like I came to that, not realization, but that like, oh, that's what I love about it is in Infinity War. Yeah, Infinity War. I was getting mixed up between Endgame. When Tony Stark's tech first comes on screen,
Which is awesome.
that because we saw the buildup. He had the suitcase. First he had, Mark 1, and then all the way up to the suitcase, and then the robots put it on, and all this stuff. So yeah, he earned the nanites. We're jumping in midway, so hopefully we'll see the development of nanites. Maybe if we get like Nick, we saw in Creature Commandos, we saw what's his face with the GI robot goes on an arc, and he ends up with that scientist. That scientist creates a bunch of robots. Maybe
that's
Magnus, yeah. Maybe he's the one that's responsible for nanites, and like we get that through other stories. Like that's what I am most excited for. I know we're going to talk about where we're looking forward to, but that is what I'm looking forward to most about this universe. Is we've only had 3 properties, including Peacemaker. So you have Peacemaker season 1, Creature Commandos, and Superman so far. Between those 3, there are so many connected dots and Easter eggs that we don't even know about yet because of things like GI Robot and nanites. And there's got to be connections like that. So yeah, I bought it in this movie, and I was surprised that I bought it because usually, like I said, I like it to be earned. But,
right.
This is a new generation of superhero movies. I think it's like you got to get on board with the story early on in the movie, and if you're not on board, you're not on board. If you are on board, things like nanites are going to make sense really quickly.
I don't have an issue with the nanites themselves. I have an issue with you start the movie with him getting his ass beat and he can barely breathe, but he gets nanites that go into his lungs and he can fly out of the atmosphere.
Yeah,
I don't buy that. Right.
I thought that whole aspect.
I need to know why several punches put him down, but nanites going through essentially his bloodstream does not take him down. He's able to fly to the atmosphere. That's why I was like, I don't know enough about these nanites to be like they're faulty or what's going on here. I don't get that. So that bothered me because I think it dragged on the significance of him overcoming that power. And I don't know, maybe there's more I'm not seeing to where something in him had driven him to that power. But I think here's something that hopefully we drag onto into the further series that they did well in the Zack Snyder one was I love the idea of, even as powerful as he is, that he has to continue to test his limits, that he doesn't know how strong he is. So if he's beat this time, it's not necessarily because he didn't know what he's doing. It's because he's not strong enough yet. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if that's what we're going with here or if he's as strong as he can be or what have you. But within the span of a few days, he gets the shit kicked out of him by some punches and some kicks. And then nanites don't seem to be a problem for him.
Well,
that was a bit of a jump for me.
So Rush, I kind of opinion. I have zero problem with him starting it off the movie with his ass kicked because it was coming. His ass kicking came from Ultraman.
I have a problem with that. Yeah.
Right. Well, hear me out here. It came from Ultraman, which is a clone of him. But the thing about the nanites, though, and it choking him, I had a problem with that because Superman, it's well known that he doesn't need air to survive. He can fly to space. So what the hell is nanites getting his lungs going to do? I mean, he doesn't need to eat food.
That's a fair point.
I mean, like the part when he was at his parents' house and he was eating food, I think she said something to him like, you need to eat and, get your strength up or something like that. Maybe I'm mistaken. I'm not remembering that right. But I definitely saw him eating food. I was just like, dude, he doesn't need to eat food. He it's nothing.
Just one quick point I'll make, and I hope, and I do believe this will probably get worked out further, is we don't know the backstory, which is fine, but there's a lot of volatility in what keeps him strong, what can kill him, what would make him suffer, what does he need to get energy from, does he need food, doesn't he need food? That was a little wishy-washy for me, kind of all over the place. I think that will get worked out, which I'm fine with. I can have the patience for that. I can have the suspenders of disbelief, as we say on the Talkville podcast. But I'm okay with it generally. I just, like I had said at the beginning of this podcast, so many things were different, And this is the disadvantage of not having that backstory, which is fine. I'm not saying, oh, screw that or whatever. I'm saying these are things that you have an advantage here. And I think James Gunn knows this. You have an advantage that you didn't have in Marvel, to where there was a lot of the fans like us, the egg lookers are going, oh, that doesn't make sense. What happened in that second movie doesn't make sense in the third movie, and so on and so forth. I think he knows that. I don't think I'm calling him out going, oh, he didn't know this. I think he knows that and going, I can address that later.
Yeah.
And I think one of the benefits of him doing that way is I'm not going to try and please everyone all the time in this movie, right? So I'm saying I had issues with this at that time. I think they'll be addressed. And if they're not, honestly, whatever, man. I love it, right? Mm-hmm. But I would like to see it. As much as I love the comic stuff, I need to see a little bit as much reality based as I can see.
Yeah.
Right. And to that point, the last thing I would say is that's why Robert Pattinson's Batman can't be in this universe. It's completely based in reality. It can't be in this. If you do that, you throw a wrench on the whole thing.
I agree. When you said that, it kind of changed my mind a little bit about, what I said about, he wouldn't. Why would these nanites choke him? Because he's. I like what you said that we don't know the backstory. Maybe he does need food. Maybe he does need to breathe air. I like that idea. Maybe he could just hold his breath for a really long time. That's why Supergirl is able to maybe Supergirl traveled through space to that other planet to get drunk through a spaceship.
Sure.
We don't know that. We don't know she traveled through space by flying. I like that aspect that you said that we just don't know, because it, like you said, it makes him more human. And I just what I said earlier, his human aspect throughout the movie definitely bumped up my opinion of this movie. So yeah. We already had thoughts on it. So the last thing,
can I have one more thing? I want to add on what you just said, because I think it's important. It was an issue I had beginning wise. I didn't think about it that in the 1978 movie, he is so kid centric, approachable, even though he doesn't have a ton of interaction with kids. He has a little. Henry Cavill is not a Superman. He can have interaction with kids. Like I've come to that realization that he's a god-like character. Mm-hmm. Kids are afraid to approach him, no matter what he says or does, right? I really like, and you see it off screen too. I love this actor, man. I don't know if you've seen, he talked about the sequence you should watch the Star Wars movies in, which is a brilliant sequence I hadn't thought of. You should go 4, 5, go 1, 2, 3, then go to 6. If you
I've heard that.
4, I like that. And he's such a nerd. He nerds out about it. But the kids love him on screen and off screen. And that kind of good-natured part, again, opens up things. When you're in that dark mode of Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, it doesn't allow the rest of the universe to come and be a part of your universe, right? Yeah, you're the dark, dramatic universe. And I love that. So sorry, I decided to say that.
No, you're good. You're good. So this is great. Back and forth.
Wait, no, yeah, that was my point. I was going to jump in with too, is about the things like that's what I'm looking forward to figuring out in this universe. Is I have questions from the comics and cartoons and movies that I've watched of okay, this is going back to the first 5 minutes of this conversation. Is Superman the most powerful man in the universe? Because you put him in a red sun planetary system and he's not as powerful. So can he fly through space, or does he need a spaceship to facilitate that?
Billy, I'd argue they made it look like he isn't even the most powerful being on this planet.
Well, no, I mean that's
what I got from the movie, to be honest.
You're not wrong, but I think part of the point of the movie, or maybe not the point of the movie, but what's in there is that in that initial text on screen, it's saying, the metahumans got here 300 or 3,000 whatever years ago.
I like that.
And then now 30 years ago is when the strongest, the best metahuman got here. And so this is the start of his arc to becoming the best. He has that innate power. He has the force sensitivity, if you want to put it that way, but he hasn't gained the skills yet.
Wait, I'm asking this honestly. Was it 30 years?
They said they
It
go
was 30.
I couldn't
because
remember.
historically, they arc it onto Jesus Christ, and it's 33 years. So that's why I'm asking. I think it is
No,
30 years.
so
Yeah,
listen,
it was
30 years
30.
from now is his peak.
It was round because it goes 300.
time out,
30.
guys.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it said
good.
he got here 30 years ago, and then 3 years ago he introduced himself to the world. 3 days ago, he
So is it 33
got
then?
casted for the first time.
I mean, technically, like by saying like
Is
30,
are we saying that?
no,
Say that
no.
again?
It was 30. Like he supposedly is 30 years old in the movie. Like
No,
Wait, but
he's
you
you
30
wouldn't go- you
years
can go to
ago.
a phone.
I don't know if it was 30, then 3 years ago, then 3 days ago. So it was 33. It's just 30?
He's 33 in the start of the
So-
movie.
Oh, so he is 33.
This
Okay.
is the start
So
of
that's
his
consistent.
33-year-old arc. Yes, and that's why I'm saying
Okay.
like, that's perfect to
He's
me.
30.
It's like exactly
He's
what
30.
you're saying.
See, I like that. I prefer that because I like to see him at 33 be a little more.
He's 30
Okay, Nick.
Nick,
Thank
why
you.
are you saying he's 30?
because he is. That's what they said. I told you. It goes
Dude, no,
300.
Nick.
30. He's 30. He came.
This is
to
why we
Earth
need to see this
30
movie
years
again.
ago.
This is why we need to see this movie again.
No,
Just
I'm
go to your
pulling
phone.
up. No. Okay, we're doing a screen share here.
No, Nick
Because-
just pulled it up.
Yeah,
Nick
do the
just
screen
pulled it
share.
up.
Yeah, let's do it.
hang
All
on.
right, let's do it.
No, Nick pulled it up my ass.
So just on my phone.
Billy, you have little faith. Come on.
No, the point that I'm making is that they said 300 years ago, and then 30 years ago,
Yep.
and then 3 years ago,
Yep.
and then and
That sounds
brings
right. Yeah.
3 years ago, meaning like he. Oh wait, so that would make him 30.
So no, he goes. It goes.
No. I thought you were just saying it right. Like 3.
Well, no, but
Yeah,
it
but
just says
3 years
it's
ago.
contradicted from the previous statement that he arrived 30 years ago because it's literally stating he was 30 years old. Or he is 30 years old.
But then
But
did it not
he's
say
saying 3 years
did it not say
ago
3
that he
years ago he
appeared
revealed
in
himself?
Metropolis.
Oh no, 30. Okay, 30 years ago he came. 3 years ago when he's 27.
No.
Okay,
30,
I get it.
So
No,
he
Go ahead.
introduced-
We'll do a Google search.
No.
Do the share.
No,
Let's
well,
save this for next time. This is
Yeah,
We'll
all
save
right,
this for next
all right,
time.
all right.
I
Let's
do
clean it up.
stand corrected. I do stand corrected. So by the opening crawl, he announced himself as Superman at 27. So now we're at 30. I totally am looking for that Jesus arc.
Well,
know,
no,
like that parallel.
it does say it though because it says 3 years ago and then 3 days ago, 33.
Yeah, that's yeah.
You got to look in. You got to connect.
Well, anyway,
Well,
I don't know where we're going.
All right. Let's we're getting about an hour and a half, so let's clean it up here. So now that we're introduced to this and we've seen what the upcoming movies are, where do you think this entire universe is going? How do you think, like, I want to hear your thoughts on, like, what do you think the interpretation is going to be on the Clayface, on the Batman, on his interpretation of Justice League? Where do you think how this is all going to be molded together? Because I saw a timeline of a huge bunch of movies and stretched over like 10 years. And it's just like, man, I got to wait for 10 years. So, like,
Let me just say, this is why I've stopped watching trailers after the initial trailer, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to know, right? Like, and I know that's might seem like a bit of a cop out, but like, I don't. Like, I had an expectation of how I wanted this movie to go, and it went a different way. I want to break that. I want to break that bias I've got there, and I want to be happy and enjoy whatever he gives me. Now, I know that can seem like simplistic, but like, I don't need it to be just like I saw this movie in a comic way, not a beginning, not an end. I don't need a trilogy or a 5-part series or whatever. If there's 10 more Superman movies, or there's 7, or there's 2, and they're part of 18 more, whatever, I don't want it to be like that. I hope they don't make it like that. They might need to at some point, but I like it to be, some of them are 1 movie, some of them are 2 movies, some of them are 4 movies, but not all of them are 3. Like, I'm fine with that. I don't need to be like that. I like it to be a Justice League movie. I like there to be those movies. And I'd like there to be at least 1 of each. That's what I would say.
Billy?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to I don't know. I'm just looking forward to the expansion of the world building through different characters, and yeah, I think there's a lot of characters to explore. Obviously, Peacemaker, then Supergirl, then Lanterns. I think is what we're getting for sure so far, and beyond
Clayface is either the third or the fourth, I'm pretty sure.
yeah. And so beyond that, like I hope the projects that we talked about possibly have, there's Clayface, there's Swamp Thing in the mix, there's other projects. I just hope like they're building up to some. I wonder what they're building up to. They have to be building up to some sort of crossover or culmination event.
You don't think it's going to be like the same thing as like, Darkseid is Thanos' like counterpart, but DC. You don't think it's going to be that? I mean, because
no, better not.
They're definitely
right. Yeah,
from James Gunn's interviews that he's said over the last year or two. Like he's definitely not going to do like the whole lead up to Thanos or something. But there has to be some like escalation of some to some point. So I look forward to like his take on what that escalation is in a non like endgame way, because I think he is going to do something different, whether it be like his take on Kingdom Come or I don't think he'll do Crisis on Infinite Earths.
I hope not. I hope not. It's way too convoluted.
I want Flashpoint. That's
Flashpoint.
Flash is my second favorite character to Superman historically, and if Flashpoint was done so poorly in that movie, if that's
watch the animated one, Rush.
The
animated Flashpoint.
That would be very. And you know who is the voice of Flash in that, right?
Yeah, Michael Rosenbaum.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but Flashpoint. It's an epic story, and I love it.
Yeah, I just like that's the big thing is like this world. Like I cannot wait to get back into this world. It feels like I keep talking about Star Wars, but like the reason I got a little Thrawn right on my shoulder.
I've got Star Wars on in the back.
Nice. The reason I love Star Wars is because it's a different, like it's a fake world that you can dip in and out of at any time. And I know that's why you love Star Trek, Rush. You can like dip in and out of.
I love Star Trek because it's based in reality.
That's
why I like Star Trek.
Yeah, that's right.
It's getting more and more real with all the
deal, man. Yeah,
the eugenics war is getting more and more real every day.
I know, but dude, Khan.
No, hey, what I'm saying though is it's a world that you're able to dip into, like in like a very specific, like there's logic, there's rules, there's parameters, not keeping everything boxed in necessarily, but like what to expect and therefore what's possible. And so like this set me up for a world of really infinite possibilities because we have we have flying dogs, we have interdimensional imps, like this set up everything. And so that's what I just look forward to, the Saturday morning cartoon of my
amen to that
going on. So, yeah,
I'll close it out here, and if you guys want to comment on it, you can. I think that y'all are what you guys just said was right as far as we don't need the same movie. We can deal with a singular movie, but in the whole universe is fine. But we don't need a triple or more than that for one particular character. But that being said, I think the statement that James Gunn made that the tone of each one of these movies is going to be different is going to be a critical point throughout, like just the whole thing here. I think that what is going to make that great, and which ties into what you said, Billy, that this is kind of like a Star Wars universe because there are different tones to these Star Wars movies, but in the same universe, you're going to have like a R-rated Clayface movie where you're going to see some gruesome ass shit. You're going to have a dark Batman. I don't know if it's going to be R-rated, but he's going to be a
Peacemaker, man.
Yeah, Peacemaker, all that shit. And then you can have, Creature Commandos, which that is a little bit campy, but at the same time, it's brutal. But then you have like Superman, which is it's not campy, it's not brutal. I mean, only one aspect was brutal. It's it's hope filled. What I can describe Superman as is light. And again, Rush, like I can't believe I'm saying this shit, but like I'm telling, like this movie like changed my aspect of thinking of Superman. Like the only time I ever thought of like this is when I first saw as a kid Superman 1 and 2. Like all the movies after that, because I don't really remember Superman 3 with Richard Pryor, but I remember seeing it, but it definitely didn't have the same effect. I didn't have that inspirational effect. And this movie, I will freely admit it definitely did. And that's what I loved about it. So I thank everybody for joining us today. This was a great time to talk. We will reconvene Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Right.
Next week. Talk to you later.
Hey, guys, thanks for having me.
All right, guys.
All right.
Have a good one.